as this was happening, as the Cowboys were approaching this moment with Manziel being available with the 16th pick, and I asked, would Jerry Jones avoid picking Johnny Manziel? And people suddenly there were saying, I don't think so.
With the 16th pick in the 2014 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Zach Martin, guard, Notre Dame.
Johnny Manziel still awaits.
So, yesterday, during a meeting, the three of us were having a little discussion about Johnny Manziel being named the starter of the Browns for the remainder of the season. Skip brought up the bright idea that if Johnny was drafted by Dallas and starting with Romo hurt, that his squad would be in way better position. Long story short, Stephen A. jumped all over him and said, save it for 10 o'clock. I laughed.
Wait, did you derisively state bright idea? Was that sarcastically stated?
Well, that was sarcastically, because I think it's ridiculous.
Molly,
and I can't believe you believe it.
I want to let the audience know, because unlike some people I know, I do not lie to the American public.
Molly does.
I wanted to bring up this subject because I wanted you to state on national TV what you told me yesterday afternoon about Johnny Manziel. The floor is yours. I want you to say exactly what you told me.
To speak the truth of this matter?
No. Just say exactly what you told me.
I'll state
Go
it.
ahead.
I might even embellish it a little bit because I've had more time to think about it. I've been thinking about it for about 5 straight weeks, and last night I thought harder about it to the point that, for sure, if Johnny Manziel had been a Dallas Cowboy this year, after Tony Romo got hurt, he was the backup quarterback, I believe Johnny Manziel would have won 4 of the games that they lost, 4 out of the 7. And I might even make a case he would have won 5 out of 7. I'll tell you that in just a moment here. But 4 would have gotten them to 6-3 with Romo returning this week. And they would effectively be running away with the NFC East. Not stop it.
I can't.
Not stop it. Jerry Jones badly wanted to draft Johnny Manziel.
Yes.
I wanted Jerry Jones to draft Johnny Manziel with the 16th pick, but I had no idea he would even be around at 16. And I was stupefied when he fell all the way to 16 and then continued to fall all the way to 22. Somehow, some way, Stephen Jones, his son, or maybe the football people in combination with Stephen, at the last second, Stephen is a great first name, talked Jerry off his position. We have to draft Johnny Manziel. They went with the highest ranked player on their board, who was Zach Martin, and boy, you cannot fault that pick because Zach Martin, as a rookie, made the Pro Bowl. I don't know, maybe he's on a Hall of Fame path. Zach Martin, I still say I would have taken Johnny Manziel. We know about all the off-field issues that have ensued. We know about the rehab. We know about this incident, after that incident, after this incident. You could make the case to me that Johnny, as a native Texan in Dallas, could have been in Sin City versus in Cleveland, where you say there's not that much to do to get in trouble. I say Johnny would get in trouble wherever he was if he was so inclined. But I also think that Johnny, as a Dallas Cowboy, was meant to be. He was born to be a Dallas Cowboy. Johnny is flat out Hollywood. Johnny is not Cleveland. He is not a Cleveland Brown.
I agree with that.
Johnny's been stuck with the worst group of skill players in the National Football League, starting for the Cleveland Browns. You put him with Dez, and you put him with all the other weapons that Dallas has behind that offensive line, and say, go, Johnny, go. Make plays. I'm looking down this list, and I believe Johnny would have won at New Orleans. Remember the overtime game that they lost? I believe he wins that game. They lost 26-20 in overtime. Okay, I believe he would have beaten Seattle because he would have made one more play than Russell Wilson. He would have out-Russell Wilsoned Russell Wilson. They lost that game 13-12. I believe he would have beaten the Eagles at Jerry World. They lost that game in overtime 33-27 and could not make a play to save their lives with Matt outhouse to Castle to outhouse again. And then finally, at Tampa Bay, you don't think Johnny could have made one play to win the game at Tampa? Come on.
I don't.
He just would have made
barely.
Oh, yeah, but yeah, you're turning it into a Giants topic now. But there, I just gave you 4. And the first game that they lost was to Atlanta. And again, Brandon, just stay off the weed, and got them to a 28-17 lead at halftime. Could Johnny have done that? I don't know. But Johnny definitely wouldn't have gotten outscored 22-0 in the second half against Atlanta, which wasn't yet quite the Falcons, and now we've seen the Falcons come back to earth. Johnny would have won that game, too. I believe that would have gotten him to 5 more. That would have gotten him to 7-2. And we would be having a very different conversation with Johnny positioned to eventually replace a starting to age Tony Romo. A beautiful thing to watch. So, again, he belonged there. He would have saved this year. Jerry should have gotten his way, and Jerry continues to call him a franchise quarterback because even last week, Jerry put Johnny Manziel in the same sentence with Ben Roethlisberger as a franchise quarterback.
And all you did by saying that and closing it to that is highlighting that Jerry Jones can be every bit as idiotic as you can be when it comes to Johnny Manziel. That is an asinine
Am I wrong?
statement. Johnny
Am I wrong?
Manziel in the same sentence.
Johnny
Manziel in the same sentence as Big Ben Roethlisberger, and you're gonna act like that's a decent statement to make. You're gonna sit there with a straight face.
I thought he was gonna be a star.
With the camera staring at you.
Yes.
Are you gonna tell me that Johnny Manziel deserved to be mentioned in the same breath as Big Ben
Browns want Johnny Manziel? No, they did not.
Answer my question. Johnny Manziel deserves to be mentioned in the same breath as Big Ben Roethlisberger.
Sure.
What?
Okay, deal with the issue.
Where's your Diet Mountain Dew? I need it checked.
Don't change the subject.
I'm not changing the subject. I'm staying on it. You got a lot of nerve saying something that asinine.
Talk me out of this.
I'm going there. Number one, they would not have lost to New Orleans. That defensive lapse that happened in the overtime had nothing to do with Johnny Manziel. You'd have lost that game. You'd have lost to the Eagles. You'd have lost to the Eagles.
Against that weight against. That's right. Killed the New Orleans defense. Johnny puts up 30 in that game.
Please, stop it.
Easy.
He would have fumbled. He got a strip sacked as well. Okay, they would have lost to Philadelphia. All right, they would have lost to the Giants. Oh, by the way,
I gave you the Giants.
By the way, I think they would have beaten Atlanta. I'll give you credit for that. They would have lost to Seattle. Seattle would have had at least
13-12.
Don't go by the forced fumble. Go by the fact that you saw what Seattle did against Carson Palmer in terms of stripping, sacking him twice. I think they would have done that to Johnny Manziel is what I'm trying to say. So I think their defense would have found a way to score because their speed and the pops, they would have hit on him because he's so miniature in NFL standards. I think they would have been in a position to take advantage of that, okay? So I'll give you that Johnny Manziel probably could have won 2 games. 2 of those games. They would have went 2-5 with him. Okay, so that would have made them 4-5 at this juncture.
That'd be pretty good. That'd be tied for the.
I give you that.
League,
I give you that. I give you that. Yeah. But to act like they would have gone 5-2,
5-2. I kind of like 5-2.
That's just
Russell
asinine.
Wilson scored 13 points.
We're not going by that. We're not going by that because we're not just going by what the other teams did. I'm talking about what a defense would have been able to do to Johnny Manziel. I think that Johnny Manziel against Seattle would have made a couple of turnovers that would have led to scores. Okay, I think the Eagles would have done the same thing because they came into the league. They came into that game very opportunistic, leading the NFL in takeaways. I think that Johnny Manziel would have been able to hold on to a 28-17 lead or a 21-7 lead also that Atlanta had against them. I definitely think that that's something that is plausible. I'll give you that. But I'm not giving them those other games. You need to stop that nonsense.
You know what?
It's blasphemous.
I'm also looking. I just read right over this.
You're disrespectful to Big Ben Roethlisberger.
And to Zach Martin.
Listen.
Zach Martin? I'm being disrespectful.
Yes.
I don't agree with that.
Do you know what he did to that O-line?
Okay, wait a second. Wait a second. Hold on just a second.
I really do. But it's hard for me because the offensive lineman was rated high on the draft board, plus he ended up being an All-Pro.
Okay. And here's the point. You think I'm being disrespectful to Zach Martin? I said that it was a great pick.
Yeah.
But Johnny would have been a better pick because they already had a Ronald Leary who lost his job to Lyle Collins.
Right.
They stole Lyle Collins in his last draft because he went undrafted because all the issues surrounding him. So all of a sudden you would have wound up this year with Lyle Collins and Ronald Leary at the guards. Would it be a slight drop-off from Zach Martin? A slight one, but I don't think a major drop-off.
Well, I will say this to you. Here's the argument that you could make for and against Johnny Manziel being a Cowboy. You had just paid Tony Romo his money, and you had promised that you would prioritize the offensive line because that's what he was begging Jerry Jones to do. That's point number one, okay? But at the same time, it would have been nice to see Johnny Manziel spelling for him. You thought Johnny Manziel was a franchise quarterback. Well, how are you going to be a franchise quarterback when you just gave Tony Romo franchise money? He couldn't pull that
He was
off.
34 years old.
But I'm saying, but you weren't talking about.
You might have to do the Aaron Rodgers method. He might have to wait 3 years.
No, you don't. You of all people don't get to say that because you weren't talking.
I just did.
Allow me to tell you why. You weren't talking about Johnny Manziel waiting. You were talking about Johnny Manziel coming into the NFL immediately and taking the league by storm. I am saying to you, you would have had to wait a minimum of 3 years with Tony Romo. So that doesn't apply. So that's why you can justify Jerry Jones passing on him.
Doesn't it seem like Tony Romo always gets hurt every year somehow, some way?
I agree with that, but we also, but he didn't get hurt last year because the offensive line,
he had a Washington
the offensive line was buffered, okay, and DeMarco Murray was running the football 392 times. So as a result, the combination of the two helped insulate Tony Romo, and as a result, he wasn't
had to
exposed.
play against Washington and then had to start against Arizona. Remember that?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
For the record.
All right, that's fine.
So he did get hurt.
He did get hurt.
And I'm looking at this Giants game, at your Giants this year. Wait, it took a 100-yard kickoff return by Dwayne Harris to win that game 27-20. Are we sure? Are we sure Johnny Manziel couldn't have made one more play?
Let me ask you this question. Last week, when Johnny Manziel completed like 33 receptions, threw for 375 yards against the Pittsburgh Steelers, primarily in garbage time. Prior to that, what had we seen from Johnny Manziel?
You're getting a distorted view because he has no weapons and he has no line.
I agree with that. I agree with that. But what I'm saying to you is you haven't seen it. Now, it's not his fault. It's based on the absence of weapons he has had. But you haven't seen much from Johnny Manziel. All I'm saying is pump the brakes. Don't sit up here and talk like he deserves to be mentioned in the same sentence at any point with Big Ben Roethlisberger. Big Ben Roethlisberger is a future Hall of Famer. He's one of the great quarterbacks
talking about
in the
a franchise quarterback. He said, if in this next draft, he's saying, if I see a Roethlisberger or a Manziel, maybe I'll take him. But he's not so far seeing a Roethlisberger or a Manziel. So he's saying, I'm not giving in to this. I'm not giving up because I wanted to take Johnny Manziel.
Okay.
He got talked out of it.
Well, he got talked out of it. He got talked. Well, he can regret it all he wants to, but he doesn't make sense because Johnny Manziel would not have been used until this year. And oh, by the way, the personnel that you had last year, you might have elected not to get rid of it, okay? And then you still would have been playing Johnny Manziel, but everybody would have been talking about him after you gave Tony Romo $55 million in guarantee. So Jerry Jones is engaging in revisionist history because he knows that there are suckers everywhere in the United States of America that are going to eat up the headlines because, once again, we're talking about something in regards to Cowboys who stink. They're 2-7, and Jerry Jones still has them relevant. That's what this is.
And here's
that's what
the
Jerry
bottom
Jones
line.
is doing.
Jerry Jones knows full well Johnny Manziel could have facilitated a Super Bowl run for this Cowboy team.
Oh, a Super Bowl
Yes.
run? Really?
Well,
so that's where we going now?
Yeah.
So we went from Johnny Manziel riding the bench.
I already picked him.
Hold on.
Stop
the presence. Bring the camera here, please.
No, keep it here.
Yes.
Keep it here.
So we go
Don't
from
give him
a few weeks ago, we're wondering whether or not Johnny Manziel should be playing in the league. And now here we are to Johnny Manziel leading a team to the Super Bowl.
Partnership.
Are you kidding me?
Not
the
a solo
Super Bowl.
I'm sorry, you cannot hear a word he's saying.
Unbelievable.
No, stop it.
It's unbelievable.
Over
the
and
Super
out.
Bowl.
It is time to go to commercial, Molly.
Let's go.
Take us
go ahead to commercial. Go ahead to commercial. Johnny Manziel in the Super Bowl. That's what you just said. The Super Bowl.
I have something to say. We don't have to worry about backups because guess what? Tony Romo's back and he's going to win the whole bleeping thing.
How do you know he's not going to get hurt Sunday?
How
do you know he's not going to get hurt Sunday?
Against Miami.
That would just make my case even stronger.
Please.
The whole thing.
They needed Johnny.
Tony Romo will get knocked out of Sunday's game from a hurt finger.
Stop it.
Austin Powers, the spy who
let's
shagged me.
Let's stay in the state of Texas right now, but move to the association. Breaking news. Kevin McHale is out in Houston, and someone is already calling it a huge mistake. We'll tell you who that is after the break and get into it. Stay here.